Hello friends, Techman Pat. Welcome to my floor and welcome to a review of the Ecovac's Deebot X1 Turbo, the next generation of robotic vacuum cleaners. And this is going to be an important one, not just because I'm on the floor and it's super sandy because I left it out on purpose so I could record all the beautiful times this bot's going to pick up that dust, but also how well it's going to mop. Spoiler alert, this is a damn good bot, but let's talk about what it can do. Let's talk about what's bad and annoying, because you can see there's some things just left out lying around. Like, why are they there? And of course, the size and how dust absorbent not just the bot is, but the actual thing. It's very, very dusty. So big thanks to Ecovacs for sending me this bot for review. Let's get off the floor and roll the intro. Alright, dusting off all the dust and fur, we'll talk about the situation in my home in a moment, but let's start with the features of this actual device, the X1 Turbo, not to be mistaken with the X1 Omni, and the big difference is that the X1 Omni also has the vacuum inside the box here, and it'll suck out all the dust out of the cabin in here. This one only has the automatic mopping swap or clean that other bots don't have, so you have to clean that. So in any case, the big thing here is that this is an automatic mopping device. It has two large water buckets in here, one clean, one dirty, and then it can refill the water tank inside the bot and put through nice clean water, and then once it does go through, it'll clean the brushes right here inside there and it'll suck up the dirty water. So technically speaking, there's a little pool inside that it cleans. Fantastic little feature. We'll talk about performance in a moment. What else can it do? Well, it's got 5,000 pascals of actual suction, and that is the biggest in the Ecovacs lineup. It is absolutely impressive how it can get dog fur out of thick carpet. We'll talk about that more in a second. It also has the largest battery at 2,600 milliamp hours. It can do 260 minutes of runtime. With this battery life, you can run the entire house, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom home, and then still run the mop on the hard surfaces. The interesting about this is when it does get to carpet, it automatically detects the carpet and turns on a higher pressured suction, which also means that it knows when there is a carpet, so when the mopping happens, it'll only mop in the places where there's hard flooring or tiles. At the same time, as it is mopping, it will actually also vacuum, so it's kind of like a 2-in-1, but it will never go on carpet when it is in mopping mode. And hence why these guys are sort of popped out on the outside. To start mopping mode, you just pop them in and then it'll start itself, fill itself with water, clean the mop, and off it goes. It'll vacuum and mop at the same time. Really, really good, especially the fact that you don't want to mop when there's still dust on the actual ground, and sometimes a dog runs through and brings sand into the house. Apart from the fantastic battery life and the extremely strong suction, what else does this bot have? Well, it's got true LiDAR navigation built into here, and it has, that's right, a camera out the front. Now, the camera out the front is used for AI detection, so if it sees something, it'll actually learn what it is, and over time get updates from Ecovacs. And of course, it means that on your phone, you can actually look through the camera. It has something of a mode to patrol the house every so often. So if you're away from home, you can run this bot as a security camera or a security bot. And of course, you can check that it's vacuuming in the right room when you're away, when you select it on the app. You can also just see if your pet is okay, if it's not scared of the machine. Of course, you can control it and tell it to go where it needs to go to do so. It has two brushes out the front, which allow it to grab all the minute bits inside the corners near the wall, where it will avoid the wall, but the brushes will reach and bring that dirt into the front, into the suction area. This makes it an absolute beast in cleaning around the edges of a house and around the edge of a couch or a chair or a table, whatever might be in there. And of course, these are replaceable, or the accessories are available on Ecovac's website. And of course, there's two of it, so it can go left-hand side in a room and it can go right-hand side in a room. The navigation is absolutely impressive, and it builds a 3D model of your home on the app, and that allows it to go to rooms, go to sections, and of course you can dictate where not to go. If you want to cut off a section where it shouldn't go because you've maybe are playing with Lego with your child, you definitely don't want to go and pick up those small pieces. And I do mention that because it can avoid large pieces, it can avoid cables, which is incredible, the amount of LiDAR and cameras that allows it to do so. But if there's a minute thing, it might actually think it's rubbish or a piece of trash, and it can suck up quite large pieces, and of course very small. So if you want to cut it off in the app, you can tell it to not go in a section. All right, let's talk about actual real world use. I've been using this for 2 weeks. I have a fairly big home in the sense of lots of floors, lots of carpets, and lots of dust, debris, and sand being brought in by the dog. We have a German Shepherd at home, and she sheds twice a year every 6 months, which means there is fur galore. And we like our dog, so we let it inside. When she walks, it's like a sprinkle of beautiful fur everywhere, which means this bot's work is cut out. The fur is very long, it's kind of harsh, and it always fills the basket inside. The basket is a little bit smaller than other models, however, it's designed in a way that it's much easier to dispose of, and it has the ability to obviously be sucked out when you have the Omni version. In the Turbo version, you have to manually remove it, which is okay because most bots are like that, and you are paying a premium to get it to be auto sucked out. The other thing about that suction is that because the fur gets embedded in carpet, this is the only vacuum that I've seen actually go over a spot once and leave it absolutely spotless from fur. When you step on fur, it embeds into carpet, especially thick ones, and the 5000 PA suction really does a fantastic job, to the point if you're running this every second day, you probably don't really need to own a big vacuum cleaner, probably a little handheld to do the spots really quickly every so often. But again, you can just send this bot to the area through the actual app. It has a very tactile brush with rubber bits and brushes to pick everything up that it can, and on a hardwood floor, you cannot see anything, no dust, no sand once it actually runs over, and of course the fur that's everywhere. It picks up everything really, really well. Even if the dog runs in after, the mopping obviously does vacuum at the same time, so again, it picks it up, so every time you mop, you have a great floor. So let's talk about mopping. In the past, with Ecovacs, I've always said the mopping is always secondary to the actual vacuum. The vacuuming portion has always been good. In this case, this one's even more powerful, and obviously the bigger battery, but this time the mopping has been upgraded like crazy. It has 2 pads that spin on angle and are pressed into the floor with magnets, giving it quite a scrubby effect onto the floor. They're obviously moistened by the water that drips, the clean water that it's sucked in through the bucket in here, and then it cleans the floors. And every 15 minutes, once it's done mopping a little bit of an area, it will actually go back to here and clean the pads. So it's not like you start an area and these pads get dirty over time. It will clean them, which is an absolutely smart thing to do. You don't want just a mop that goes crazy and then it gets dirtier as it goes further into the home. These guys get cleaned every 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how much area it's done, which means your home is actually pretty much getting cleaned by a clean mop every couple of meters, and that's so good. So is the actual mopping any good? The past versions of the Deebots were just drag cloth around and it would just put clean water through, and at the end you've got a dirty mop and it doesn't even move. But you could get an $180 Australian attachment that would vibrate. But again, it's not as good as 2 things spinning counterclockwise and then actually scrubbing with pressure from the bot and vacuuming at the same time. And then top it off, cleaning the actual mops back into here with clean water through the scrubbers in the bottom. That is an impressive feat of technology, and it works really, really well. So, as suggested in my last videos about the Deebot, the first thing you should do is do a proper vacuum, which you can use this bot, but then do a manual mop. And then after that, if you mop every second day, your home will be cleaner for longer, probably only ever needing a manual mop every 1 to 2 months. Because of how well these scrub, you probably won't need to do it unless there's this really tough spot that is dried on. These guys will probably have to go over it twice. It'll get that first layer off, but you might need to scrub it. So this is more of a, hey, I'm gonna keep the house clean for 2 months, and hence you can't just forget about cleaning and mopping, but you can forget about it for a longer time. The bot doesn't vacuum carpets with them on, which is a little bit annoying. You know, it doesn't go up higher because you don't want this to drag on the carpet. and pick up stuff from the carpet because it's wet, or wet the carpet, whatever it might be, you kind of want to keep them away. And they are actually removable, so you can flick them through the wash after a little while. And of course, I think you should. They're not always going to get clean in here perfectly germ-free, but it is going to get better for a couple of these washes. So I reckon after a month or two, 6 weeks, let's say, put them through the wash. And of course, you've got spares and you can just swap them out. Brilliant. I think the spinny mops make this X1 Turbo probably the best mopping bot I've ever got to experience. And again, I cannot stress enough how much better this is from any other EcoVac mopping bot in the past. I've always just said, you know what, this is a vacuum, not a mop. Ignore the mopping, it's secondary and it's not that great. And now I can finally say that mopping is top notch on this bot. It has reached the point where it actually does a good enough job to let it do it, because sometimes it does such a bad job. The effort you need to set it up is just worthless. Okay, let's jump into the app and talk about the great features that this new version comes with.
If you've ever used the EcoVac app, it is one of the best ones out there right now and it is really well supported. Let's jump into the first interesting feature about this robot, and that is the camera. You can of course view the camera from anywhere and any time, and you can also set it to a patrol mode. Right now it's vacuuming, I can take photos, I can also record video. It is actually a really pretty good quality video in fact, and of course you can tell it to go to certain rooms that are mapped out on your map on the app. You can also schedule in a patrol across your home, no cleaning, just it driving around and making sure, or at least telling you if things are out of place. In the rest of the app you can see the home map, and it can contain multiple maps, so if you have multiple levels in your home you can tell it to use a certain map and it'll recognize where it's at when you place it on the lower level. Means you don't have to have 2 bots for a 2-level home. You can rename all areas and give special icons, and of course you can put boundaries where the robot is not allowed to go. And just like with any other robot, you can change the cleaning preferences from vacuum power to water flow and set certain cleaning schedules and smart cleaning, meaning that you can do continuous cleaning and the bot will come back to the charger and recharge and go back to cleaning. In regards to the mopping clean, you can actually set it from 10 minutes, 15 minutes or 25 minutes. I would say daily is probably good.
Now the final feature before we get into some of the negatives I found is the actual assistant. Now you could call it a bit of a negative. Not everybody likes talking to their bot, but Yuki is there and it's a little bit like Mr. Google. But I would say that the app works a lot better and a lot quicker. I've tried to use the voice assistant to do things, and you know what, I just found it a bit cumbersome than just getting out my phone and doing it. Okay, Eco. Okay, Eco. Eco. Okay, Eco. Okay, Eco.
I'm here.
Start mopping. Okay, Eco. No, there it is. However, sometimes when I have my hands full, I'm able to use my voice and activate it just to start. But I have already prepared the house and I could just press a play button up top here and start the wash anyway. So the assistant, don't think people are going to use it as much. The thing that annoys me is the speaker built into this isn't as great as the bots previously. The voice doesn't sound that great and it sounds really tinny, like through a robot. And in the past, the other robots have a really clear voice. When I was in another room, I could hear the bot say, hey, I'm stuck, or hey, I've got something in my brush, you know, it's picked up a bit of, I don't know, large string or rope and it's pulled it in and I can go and get it. With this bot, I can't really hear it. So with that in mind, let's segue into a few more negatives. Obviously, these things hanging around isn't the prettiest thing. And it's just there, right? You can't hide it inside because it doesn't actually have a space for it, even though there's a little cubby hole there to put your brushes and cleaning equipment, and of course the 2 giant 3-liter tanks. But I would just point out that it just kind of needs a little storage in there, or maybe behind or something. Furthermore, obviously it's a massive device. This can't fit in everybody's home. You have to have a large enough space for it to drive out, and it can't be on carpet. It has to be on hardwood floor, not wood or tile. And you know what? It is a dust magnet. Like, the amount of static dust that this sucks up is incredible. The first stick to it, there's just very messy, and you know what? It's another thing to dust off. Like, there's no robots to go around dusting things on your cupboards or your tables. So Some people might get a little bit annoyed with these sticking out and getting a little bit dusty. Personally, I don't, but it is something to note. Further to that, the bot itself does also accumulate a lot of dust, so it's kind of annoying. I haven't seen the other bots do it, maybe because this one's black and you can see it, but I have to give it a quick wipe every so often. And of course, you've got sensors on the bottom to edge detection, which is perfect. It's always been perfect in Ecovacs systems. Lastly, the biggest annoyance is, of course, emptying this out. It is a little bit frustrating because the cover is a flap, right? And then you got to take it out and pull it out. So what happens is when you pull this out to get the dust out and the crap that's in there, it'll just roll back in and you got to pull it out again. It's an automated return, of course, but it's kind of annoying. You can't just get to it and then come back and put it in. It should be a little bit smarter than that by going in, taking the bucket out, cleaning the bucket, putting back in and putting this cover back in, and then the bot should be like, all right, I'm going to ride back into place. But unfortunately it doesn't. It is a little bit annoying. You can come back, pull it out. When you're trying to get things done fast around the house, that's a little frustration. But the good thing is it can be changed with software very, very easily. So here's a little tip, Ecovacs. Thanks very much. All right, let's talk about price. How much is this machine going to set you back? And in Australian dollaroos, it is a lot. On Amazon right now, it is $2,300. It is on a special deal for this week. It has $300 off for $250, and it's the week to buy it, but it is also very expensive. So what do you get for $2,000? Well, of course, you get a bot that's very powerful. It runs a long time, fantastic battery life. It can mop and mop at a level that is actually acceptable as a mop. It probably does it even sometimes better than you would because it spins and it kind of grinds the grime down. And of course, it vacuums really, really well. But $2,000 compared to the T8 or the previous versions, which were priced at around $600 to $1,200, this is the extreme top of the line. And even the Omni is $2,500, which contains the auto dirt dispenser built into the side. And that in itself is another big unit, even bigger than this. I think it's literally up here. So you're paying for a lot and you're getting a lot. Is it worthwhile? Do you have a big home? Do you have a pet? Do you have kids running around and you've got toys everywhere? Do you have to clean everything up every time you want to vacuum? Well, if you don't like doing any of that and you have a messy home, this is going to do a fantastic job cleaning and avoiding all the obstacles. And of course, it's very low maintenance because you just have to empty it, of course, after every clean, but then the mopping itself takes care of it, and there's enough water here to last about 3 or 4 weeks of actual cleaning. It's a lot of water, and that in itself is impressive, but the mopping part is what people don't do. They generally just vacuum a home, and mopping always comes second. It's always a secondary thing, but this brings it to the forefront and does a really, really good job. So yes, it is expensive, and remember there's a chip shortage out there at the moment. There's a technology shortage, and stock's only coming in, I think, for this in the end of May, so June. So yes, is it worth it? I think it is. This is probably the best bot I've ever seen, and all the complaints that I've had with other bots have been pretty much fixed or alleviated or removed completely. The suction is pretty much that of most big handhelds, and even those Dyson bowl ones. This is fantastic power, and the battery lasts so long. This bot is worth $2,000, don't get me wrong. It does a job of a person, and over the next 2-3 years when you have this bot, it's gonna pay dividends for keeping your home clean if that's what's worthwhile to you. So my suggestion, if you have a pet, if you have kids, if you have toys everywhere, this is the bot to get. If you don't have pets and you don't necessarily have stuff on the floor all the time, go for one of the lower Ecovacs. They do perform really, really well, and there are powerful suction ones with 2,600, but at this rate, this is the most powerful Ecovacs robot there is out there right now. Friends, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts about this bot. It is, holy hell, it's massive, it's expensive, and it does an impressive job. So let me know your thoughts. If you have any questions, big thanks to Ecovacs for sending me this bot for review. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So make sure to check out the links below and where you can buy it with Amazon links there. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in another one. Bye.